And we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by Asilo. Asilo is a tabletop role playing game of psychological and clinical horror. You will find it in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly partnered with the What the Funk shop. Please check out their store for all sorts of products. They have dice, miniatures, game master screens, home decorations, and many other things. You will find the link in the description and in the pinned comment as well. And make sure that you use my code for a special discount. Tonight, I'm going to give you a fairly comprehensive guide. Let me close this promotional image. There we go. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know in order for you to play, to get into Dragonbane. Dragonbane is one of the best fantasy role-playing games that I have ever seen. It could be one of my favorite games. There are so many cool things about it, and we will get into that in a few moments. So I think it's a good idea to start with the very beginning. What would be the best product to purchase in order to get into Dragonbane? I would highly recommend getting the box set, the Dragonbane box set. It contains everything, absolutely everything you need to play Dragonbane, and even more, and even more. So let me open the box. The box is super sturdy, by the way. This box is going to last you years. The contents of the box, you have, of course, the rule book. As you can see, it is pretty thin. The rules are so easy to understand. The roleplay explanations are abysmal, but that's why you have channels such as mine. But that's the only negative point when it comes to the explanation of the rules. Concerning the rules themselves, well, another caveat is that the box set has some errata and it needs a small errata, not as big as compared to other products. You can find this errata in the Free League Publishing forum for Dragonbane, or you also have the choice of purchasing the separate rulebook. As you can see, this is thicker than this other rulebook, right? Not only is the quality for the paper much better in the standalone rulebook, paper is so thick. You also have a complete scenario, scenario, a complete scenario or adventure. But that is not to say that the core box doesn't come with a complete campaign and a system of solo rules. So definitely, if you're considering buying the box set or the separate rulebook, I would say that the bonuses in the box set are worth it. The rulebook is either like a secondary book of reference. The only thing that could be considered new or improvements is that, oh, excuse me, let me place this over here. Well, I have my earphones, but I don't need them. I don't need them at all. The the major difference, the things that could be considered that could encourage you to purchase this standalone rulebook is that it contains the new adventure and the errata has been fully integrated here. But apart from having the the physical book, having it as a separate product, the box set has you covered. Now let's continue talking a bit more about the rules before we move into other things. When it comes to, well, and the content in general, when it comes to the setting itself, it is super vanilla. It is as vanilla as you can get, leaning more towards dark fantasy, and that means that you can add and take whatever you want from the setting. So there is a lot of freedom there. Concerning the mm, mm, character creation, for pretty much everything in Dragonbane, you use your polyhedral dice, typical polyhedral dice. And when creating a character, you have the option of randomly generating things or even choosing. In the case of the kin, they are like the species. You have in the core box set or in the core rulebook, you have humans, halflings, dwarves, elves, mallards, and wolfkin. The mallard and the wolfkin kin or species are probably what stands out the most compared to your standard vanilla setting. The mallard are humanoid ducks, and the wolfkin, they are a bit like werewolves. Let me show you. Not exactly werewolves. In fact, you have werewolf villains, but the wolfkin could be considered humanoid wolves. Still feel a lot like werewolves. Not as powerful in combat, I would say. They don't have like a special bite attack and claws to attack with. Although they do have hunting instincts, which gives you an edge in combat and tracking prey. Here's an illustration of the mallard. Let me get it closer. You see, humanoid duck and an illustration of the wolfkin. Right. Each one of these kin or species has, you can generate random names for them, but you also have an ability that is pretty much in tune with what you have seen in fantasy archetypes or stereotypes, even. In the case of humans, they are flexible, adaptive. They can use skills in place of other skills, as long as it is justifiable via roleplay, of course. In the case of, like I said, the wolfkin, they have this hunter's instinct, hunting instincts, that allows them to catch the scent of their prey. They designate a creature as their target. This you can follow the scent of your prey, or you can spend a willpower point. Willpower points are considered a bit like resources in the game to gain a boon, which is similar to an advantage in other systems or Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. You roll two dice and you take the best result. You get a boon for an attack against your prey, and so forth. The different kin have the different special abilities. Simple, at most, in the majority of cases, just one, and as in some cases, a secondary feature that is it's useful, but in a more subtle way. Now, concerning the professions, you can also randomly generate your profession, or you can pick from various specializations, such as artisan, bard. The profession that is there is no like a specialization per profession. There are only professions. You have artisan, bard, fighter, hunter, knight, mage, mariner, merchant, scholar, thief, and you never feel completely tied to a particular archetype or restricted Your mariner could specialize in ranged combat quite easily, or you could be more of a close combat specialist. In the case of the mage, you have magical disciplines, so consider them schools of magic to be more effective at casting very specific spells. We will talk about those in a few moments. You can also randomly determine your age. The older you are, the more skilled you are, but not as naturally gifted. Your strength, agility, and constitution will suffer for it, but your intelligence and willpower will get a bonus. Your attributes are pretty self explanatory. You have strength, constitution, agility, intelligence, willpower, charisma. In the case of derived ratings, this concerns movement, damage bonus, hit points, willpower points. They are pretty easy to understand and pretty self explanatory. Movement is the distance that you cover when you move during a particular round. Damage is an additional die bonus that is applied to your damage roll. Hit points, they are your health. When you end up in zero hit points, something really bad is going to happen. And willpower points, they serve to power special abilities and traits and spells. They are your currency. You spend those willpower points in order to obtain various things. And like I said, you have your skills, nothing too out of the ordinary. Your skills cover everything from, let me give you some examples: crafting, persuasion, hunting and fishing, weapon skills, covering axes, bows, brawling, spears, swords. When you determine your skills, depending on your profession, you have a base chance, which is used as a double value. It doubles in your specializations. Because, for example, it says here, mm, every skill is connected to an attribute which determines your base chance in that skill. This is indicated in the character sheet. In addition to the base chances, you start out with a number of trained skills, 8, 10, or 12, depending on your age. At the start of the game, your level in a trained skill is equal to twice the base chance, and 6 of your trained skills must be selected from the list in your profession. Concerning heroic abilities, you could look at them as special powers. They are things that make you stand apart from other members of your profession. Each profession has an ability, but as you level up, as you make progress in the game, you have a chance to obtain more heroic abilities. That way, your character could perhaps, let me get to the, be an expert dual wielder, or maybe you are a dragon slayer. An attack aimed at a monster deals an additional d8 damage. You activate this ability after you roll to hit, but before you roll for damage. You could also be fearless. You could be a berserker. You could be cat-like in your reflexes and your balance. You could have a companion, like an animal companion. So all of these abilities, you either obtain them through your profession, or you can choose them as various events during the game occur. Solving tasks checks in Dragonbane is very simple. You roll a d20, and if the result is lower or equal to your skill level, then it's a success. The player immediately knows if the roll is a success. And that's why Dragonbane is also excellent for solo play. Otherwise, it's going to be a failure. This also applies to combat. If you roll a 20, this is a demon, and a demon is not good. It's like a critical failure in other games. And based on the context on or rolling on a particular table, there are going to be some nasty effects related to that failure. If you roll a 1, this is a dragon. The dragon is a critical success based once again on context or the table, what you roll on a table. It's going to be a very positive thing. You may be able to deal a lot more damage in combat, and in skill checks you will accomplish what you were setting out to do, but in a quite the spectacular way. And when you roll a 1 or a 20, you always mark that particular skill. It has a chance to level up. And how does level up work in this game? Very simple. At the end of a session, you get advancement marks. You get 1 mark for each roll of 20 or 1 because we learn from our greatest failures and successes. But there are also other circumstances. Did you participate in the game session? That's a mark, if it's a yes. Did you explore a new location? If it's a yes, you get a mark. So for every affirmative response or answer, it's a mark. Did you defeat one or more dangerous adversaries? Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? Did you give in to your weakness? Those marks allow you to roll. And if you roll above your particular skill, that skill levels up. So someone that is not particularly skilled at acrobatics, perhaps you have like 9 in acrobatics, you make your roll and you roll a 10, then you leveled up. But as you become more and more skilled, let's say you have 16 in acrobatics, it's going to be difficult to roll above 16 in order to level up. You can also find teachers, and some events during the campaign could grant you heroic abilities as you level up. Because normally when you reach the peak of a particular skill, 18. If you get 18 in a skill, you get a heroic ability. You can also handle opposed rolls, matching your roll against an opponent, but in most situations, it's a roll equal to or under your particular skill if you want to be successful at a task. Boons and Banes, like I said, they work similar to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. You roll your dice, couple of dice, and you take the best result in the case of a boon, or the worst result in the case of a bane. If you fail in your rolls, you can also push your roll. That is, you can roll again, but you get a negative condition. Oh, Josh, welcome, Josh. Dragonbane is a very interesting system. Yes, I agree. Definitely agree. So the boons and banes can handle any sort of situation. If there is some advantage or disadvantage, the player describes his or her action and it makes a lot of sense with the logic or the context of the situation, then that player is going to get a boon. It could also be related to special powers. But if the situation is going against the player character specifically, he may end up making those rolls with a bane. Now, when it comes to combat, you handle things through rounds and initiative, like in many other tabletop RPG systems. If you purchase the Dragonbane box set, you get these cool looking initiative cards. They are numbered from 1 to 10. The higher the value, the the slower you are. So you want the best value would be 1. The worst one would be 10. You want to get 1 so that you're first in combat, and then so forth it goes. There are actually some powers that allow you to manipulate these cards. In the case of the fighter, you can spend a willpower point so that if you, for example, you got a 1 in the initiative, in the next combat round, because you use your special ability, welcome, Roger. Doing great. I hope you are doing well too. If you want to keep this card for the next round, then you pay 1 willpower point if you're the fighter, so that you get to keep that card. So I like that card play when it comes to initiative. You can also surprise your opponents based on the context, on the perhaps you set up a really good ambush, right? You have actions and reactions in combat, and I think this is the tricky aspect of Dragonbane. You can easily distort the roleplay if you don't understand the actions and reactions. Actions are pretty simple. You have things such as melee attack, ranged attack, dash, parry. But parry and dodge are effectively reactions. But you can do other things. You can activate abilities, cast spells, interact with the environment. Everything is handled via actions. But what about reactions? Reactions are not taken in your turn. They happen in the turn of the enemy, usually. And that's the thing about Dragonbait. As you're describing your actions, you are still not sure what you're going to do. You don't know if you're going to parry, if you're going to block. Some of the enemies can be parried, some of their attacks can be parried. Other enemies, there is no way you can parry their attacks. And you have enemies that have attacks. Some of them can be parried, some of them can only be dodged. So that's going to present for those that don't know how to roleplay. They're going to be like, okay, I parry. No, no, I block. No, 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 no. I mean, I dodge. And the game master, this monster attacks you with, uh, this attack. You cannot parry it. But you can dodge it. So it's going to be super messy. My recommendation: if you choose to forfeit your action to spend it as a reaction instead, because you cannot take all the actions that you want. You can take free actions, minor actions like drawing a weapon that you have at hand or dropping to the ground. That counts as a free action. Or movement. When doing your actions, you can also move. You can move once and attack, for example. But other actions, like I said, melee combat, ranged attacks, you're not going to be doing like 2 or 3 melee attacks or ranged attacks unless you have a heroic ability like dual wielding that allows you to do that. But once you commit yourself to react via blocking or parrying, you could describe, I wait for the opponent in front of me to attack me in order to react. Right? Narrative. You still don't know if you're going to block, if you're going to dodge. Once the game master plays the role of the monster, describing the monster's attack, the game master should inform something like, the beast throws itself at you, clawing and biting. This attack cannot be parried. Right? And look, that's a perfect way of integrating the roleplay with the mechanics. Or the demon swings its two-handed sword in a downward chop motion towards your head. This attack can obviously be parried. And now the player has the choice, the choice of dodging or parrying. The game master has informed the player clearly what can be done in order to avoid or parry that attack. And the roleplay is kept because it becomes part of the description of the action. So attacking is very simple. Like I said, you make your roll. You see if you roll below your skill, If it's a success, you roll damage. If not, you fail. Unless you roll, like I said, a 20, which is a critical failure, something nasty is going to happen. And if you roll a 1, something really cool is going to happen. And Dragonbane has several optional rules that make the game a bit more complex. I use all of them because they're easy enough to understand. For example, find weak spot. If your weapon is piercing, you can try to find a gap in the enemy's armor or natural armor. You get a bane on the attack, but if it hits, the enemy counts as armorless. You see? Let's see. Josh speaks. Brilliant analogy of the mechanics for role playing. I can see this being disastrous on most tables, though. Sadly. And like I said, especially because of the horrible rules explanations, the horrible roleplay explanations. And I have talked to the author, to Thomas, in the past. We before Free League became the monster, the powerhouse that it is today. I used to talk via email with Thomas considerably. Thomas Harenstam. I always have trouble pronouncing his last name. Harenstam. Just have to watch this video and then they will be ready. Exactly. Exactly, Josh. And Thomas is a really, well, at least when I last talked to him about like 5 years back, he was a pretty decent guy. But yes, and I even said in my review, Thomas, eh, you have to do something about this rule. And in the electric state, right over here, you can see it, the electric state book. The roleplay explanations are a bit better. I would say considerably better. Not top notch, not yet, but considerably better. And like I said, Thomas, where is my thank you? A special thanks at the start of the book. Special thanks to Abraham Cetina, who was the Abraham El Jaguar, if you wish, who was the only one in all of the Free League publishing reviews, the only one who criticized our horrible roleplay explanations. So yes, combat because of the simple roll under, roll equal, or roll under mechanic. Combat is so easy to handle, and you can apply any of the optional rules. This applies also to ranged combat. And what about conditions? Like I said, you can push your roll, but you get a condition. Maybe you end up exhausted, sickly, dazed. Pushing your roll is trying again, repeating your roll to see if it's a success. And it represents that exertion, right? Maybe you are trying to push something really heavy. You failed your roll. No, no. You push your roll to be successful. It represents that extra exertion, but now perhaps you're in danger of tearing a muscle, right? Or you end up out of breath. You gas out. You now you're exhausted. The beauty of it, right? And so every single other roll that you get, that you make, that is affected by that condition. In the case of exhaustion or exhausted, any strength check, you roll it with a how do you call it? The thing contrary to a boon, the bane. You roll it with a bane. This means you roll two dice and you take the worst results. Roger speaks. Simplicity Simplicity of game design and mechanics is vastly underrated and underutilized. I really like all sorts of mechanics, simple or complex. But sadly, in a lot of cases, overcomplicated systems are used by those that do not roleplay. They are gamers. Don't get me wrong, they are gamers. Similar to war gamers or board gamers, but they don't roleplay and sometimes they use complicated rules to fill in the gaps because they have many moments where they are just like, I roll. I attack with my axe. Roll to hit. I roll 12. Roll that. Okay, instead of I charge and cut with my axe, diagonally aiming towards the collarbone of my enemy. All right. I take 3 steps forward and thrust with my spear at the opponent's abdomen. So in order, they have those empty moments, colorless, no description of their actions. So they need to fill in with that math, with that crunch, sadly. Not always, but in a lot of cases. And let's see. But like I said, I love, for example, Hackmaster. That is the crunchiest system that I have ever seen. So it's up to your preference, right? Josh, almost sounds like a good solution for a game you were looking at live yesterday. Dark Souls. That's why there are other, some would say, better systems to play to represent Dark Souls. Runecairn. Runecairn being one of them. Runecairn handles stamina as filling up the slots in encumbrance. That is, imagine, I don't remember the number of slots, but in Runecairn you have, let's say, 10 slots, and you have your items, right? You have your rations, your sleeping bag, your whatever, and they fill in slots in your encumbrance, in your inventory, right? In your equipment. And when you start doing maneuvers, combat maneuvers, those slots are filled. Oh, you did, let's say, roll an attack. Now two of the encumbrance slots are filled. And if they are all filled, then you get exhausted. So it's a very simple representation of handling the Dark Souls stamina. If you haven't played Runecairn, I'm going to write it in the chat so you get the Runecairn. Runecairn. If you haven't seen that one, it has abysmal roleplay explanations, but the mechanics for the stamina, a lot of people prefer it to Dark Souls. And like I said, I like the position system of Dark Souls, but for those that dislike the position mechanic, the position resource, take a look at Room Care, and it comes with solo rules. It comes with solo, and I would even say cooperative rules. Rune Karen, do not hesitate to purchase it if it calls if it resonates with you, if you feel attracted to it. Is it the same game as Skyrim, or is it just similar? Oh, that is actually a really good question. There are some similarities. Rune, let me check. Rune Cairn. Uh, 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 um, Rune Cairn is based on Cairn. Exactly, exactly, Josh. The same as Cairn. Moving on. When it comes to healing and resting in Dragonbane, it is accomplished so easily. You can take a round rest, a quick rest that lasts just a single round. During a round rest, you recover only 1d6 of willpower points, but no hit points. This is for your willpower points in order to power your abilities and spells. You can only have a round rest once per shift. A shift is the equivalent of 6 hours. There is also the stretch rest, a short rest that only lasts for one stretch of time. During a stretch rest, you heal 1d6 HP or 2d6 HP. So hit points directly, your health points. If someone else is standing to you and succeeds with a healing roll, that is, if someone heals you with a healing roll while you are taking a stretch rest, you recover 2d6 of HP. If not, only 1d6. During a stretch rest, you can also recover 1d6 willpower points and heal a condition of your choice. You can only have a stretch rest once per shift. When it comes to a shift rest lasts one full shift of time and can only take place in a safe location where there are no enemies nearby. During a shift rest, you recover all your lost hit points, or health points rather, and willpower points, and heal all conditions. If a shift rest is interrupted by combat or hard work, it has no effect. There, you can also use magic to heal health points more quickly, or perhaps you encounter something like a magical potion, some artifact that also heals you, item. And there are many hazards that are easily handled, like darkness, poison. That can be, for example, in the case of poison, you suffer damage, ongoing damage. In the case of darkness, you could suffer some disadvantages when making your attack rolls or skill checks, or even you could be unable to do certain things because there is no light whatsoever. So everything is handled so easily, the hazards, falling, hunger, it is so very streamlined. In the case of riding animals, instead of making your attack roll with a particular skill in a weapon, you use your riding skill. It makes a lot of sense. It is very different fighting from on top of your mount than compared to fighting on the ground. You can also use improvised weapons. If you purchase the box set, you also have these cool looking cards. Divided by category depending on the environment, whether you're fighting in the forest, in a cave, in an urban environment. You can use these cards accordingly to end up with results such as torches, puddles, crevices. Mhm. Let's see, two comments. First, Roger. See now, had Dark Souls just had done their RPG mechanics and gameplay to Dragonbane, Dark Souls might have been better than it is. That is possible, considering the conditions of exhausted. Maybe you could get like a temporary condition, like you make your action and now you are exhausted and you need to wait 1 or 2 rounds so that the exhausted condition goes away. I can definitely see that working out, Roger. Now let's take a look at what Josh says. Do you think the tagline of Mirth and Mayhem was a poor choice for the system? I think some may overlook it, not thinking it is a serious and dangerous system. It's how you say? I think it is a double-edged weapon because, as you can see on the cover, right? Let me get it close. You pretty much have Elric. That's Elric of Melnibone. White hair, elf-looking character with a sword. That's Elric inspired, right? And Elric has some. I would say that there is a great inspiration from Elric, from the Elric saga, because in the case of the Elric saga, it's generally dark fantasy. There are some very twisted things in when it comes to Elric, but at the same time, there are some of the adventures from Elric that are quite ridiculous, ridiculous in a good way. But you end up like scratching your head, like, am I reading Elric or am I reading the Dying Earth? Kujal Saga specifically. So when it comes to Mirth and Mayhem, I think they should have said added dark mirth and mayhem because Dragonbane is also dark fantasy. There are some nasty, horrifying things in Dragonbane. So I would have named it Dark Mirth and Mayhem. Dark Mirth and Mayhem. Like a dark mirth, right? I think that would have been much better. Now, where was I? Combat. Riding animals. Improvised weapons. Mm, a moment, please. Excuse me for a moment. There we go. All right. The schools of magic. I really like this illustration. Like, uh, let me get it close. Like a wizard or sorcerer summoning a demon. Although that is more the territory of the bad guys, for all of what Dragonbane has, it is not expected for you to play villains. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons, where you can play a chaotic evil, lawful evil, neutral evil, etc. In Dragonbane, it is expected that you are at least heroic rather than villainous. So you have three schools of magic, four schools of magic. You have general magic, which could be considered a bit like cantrips. Not that they are as weak, because usually you say cantrip and people imagine like very weak spells. But just to give you a general description, they are a bit like cantrips, catch-all category of spells or effects. Mm, in the case of animism, this is more druidic, and I would say on the healer side. This is about using the powers of the spirits, of the earth, of the gods, to call lightning and heal wounds and use ensnaring roots. So if you want to be like a druid caster, animism is for you. Elementalism is going full throttle. Oh, let me see. Uh, um, Red Rat, thank you for the review. I wanted to play my copy. Yeah, definitely play it, Red Rat. It is incredible. Do not miss out on. You already made the purchase, so find a group or get a group started because this game is beautiful. Uh, or play it solo. Play it with the solo rules. That also works. Elementalism is going full throttle, raw, undiluted, wrath of the elements, fire, water, air, earth. It is super powerful, amazing. Probably my favorite school of magic, dealing damage directly, allowing you to let me take a look at the create gusts of wind, pillars of earth. The game does look like a cool system to play in. It is in yeah, it's one of the best fantasy systems out there, I would say. Now, when it comes to mentalism, this is if you want to be a bit like a psychic or psionic character, a bit like a Jedi, like levitation and far sight, power fist, mental strike. So you want to be a bit like a Jedi? Look at this illustration. This is the discipline for you. Mentalism. You know what really bothers me when it comes to psionics? Roger. Roger says something. Let's check it out. So it is possible to have great artistic flair and superior RPG elements in the same game. Who would have thought it? Looking at the depths of Dark Souls, exactly. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They could have both the art and the mechanics, but you need to be a bit more skilled or virtuous in your craft in designing RPGs. Yeah, and not be lazy, not be copy paste, not going to the Dungeons and Dragons player's handbook and monster manual and copy pasting all of the information. And like I said, what I really dislike this stereotype of the psychics of the psionics is that they always put a bald guy or a bald girl. This is science fiction YouTube. Take a look at the long hair Vietnam experiment in science fiction. What is that experiment about? The U.S. Government realized that whenever they sent soldiers that were previously incredible in tracking, fighting, etc. For example, they recruited Native American Indians, Native Americans, to fight. But when they sent them into the field, their scouting and combat abilities were horrible, and they were like, "What? But you were so awesome when we recruited you." What was the problem? Their hair. When you enter the army, what's the first thing that they do? Snip, 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 snip. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Bald, completely bald. And why is that? Do you remember those incredible warriors from the past? Samson, Cuchulainn, Alexander the Great. What did they have in common? Miyamoto Musashi. What did they have in common? Long hair. And so in the US, they thought, let's do an experiment. Let's grab a bunch of soldiers and let's let them grow hair as long as possible and get them into various test situations, into actual combat situations, and let's see how they fare. Not only were they incredible in combat, they actually had this perception, like a sixth sense of sorts, because our hair works like an antenna in science fiction, YouTube, science fiction antenna. It allows you to sense things. And the sun, it works like batteries. You obtain the rays of the sun. Welcome, Pete. Welcome. It obtains rays from the sun, and you recharge that energy, that solar energy. And so that's why in all of those stories, they would, oh, Samson is so weak. Let's cut Samson's hair so that he's weak. And that's is why in certain countries in the East, I'm not saying which ones, YouTube, certain countries, they forbid men and even women from having long hair. And that's the reason why the US in science fiction doesn't have long haired soldiers all the time. Why is that? Why? Because when you have long hair and you are not like a fat neckbeard, because there are many neckbeards that have long hair, their physiology is impeded by the toxins that they are fighting. Because imagine you are overweight, you have your body encapsulating the toxins with fat. That's a mechanism for the body. That's why fat people are fat, because their body is trapping the toxins like with the fat. And that's how you become fat. But if you're free from toxins and you have long hair, you start to think beyond the mainstream, right? And they didn't like that, so no, they prefer soldiers with their heads completely shaved. And like I said, in other countries, they even disallow that for civilians. No, no long hair for you, or they shame them. So yes, that's why I don't like this stereotype of the psychic or the psionic that goes completely bald. One of my viewers actually said, but what about the monks, the Shaolin monks? Yes, well, the Shaolin monks, not only are they quite indoctrinated, they have to train 24/7. They have to constantly train 24/7. So if they had long hair, they wouldn't need to train as much. When it comes to gear in Dragonbane, the lists are sufficient. You have all sorts of swords and weapons, blunt weapons, piercing weapons. You have a lot when it comes to trade goods, services, hunting, fishing, means of travel. The list is so robust, really good. Now, when it comes to the bestiary, and like I mentioned a few moments ago, I really like the illustration of the worm and the adventurers fighting the worm. Each one of these monsters has so many attacks. You have demons, you have dragons, you have giants, you have Giant spiders, goblins, griffins, harpies, manticores, skeletons, and almost all of them have an entire menu of attacks that can be randomly determined. It's so fun for the game master, I speak from experience, when a monster is attacking and you make a roll. Oh, the dragon sweeps its claws at the both of you, or you roll something else. The beast opens its great jaws and attempts to devour you at maddening speed. And like I said, inform at the end of each description, inform the player this attack cannot be parried. Now the player knows that he or she needs to dodge if they chose to spend their action as a reaction to either parry or dodge. So no problem there. Just mention this attack cannot be parried. And now you're giving everything that the player needs to know in order to dodge that attack. Or this attack can be parried. Problem solved. A good selection of enemies overall with valuable lore information. All of the enemies have their own illustration. Again, if we want to keep on bashing Dark Souls, all of the enemies have their own illustration. If we want to keep on bashing the Dark Souls RPG. Now, the section on adventures is also really cool because as you move through the map, yeah, as you move through the map, you may encounter many things. You need a character to serve as pointman, as a guide, navigating the terrain. Maybe you end up in the middle of a fog. The player characters are caught unawares. The distance covered this shift is reduced by half. And that is a problem in long journeys. Now you need to camp and you need to spend a ration or hunt for food, forage, find water. Maybe you encounter savage animals and they attack you. Or if you're lucky enough, you have the companion heroic ability and now you have a free pet. Maybe you dropped an item during the journey. Oh, fuck, don't you just hate that when you drop an item during journeys? Roger speaks. Individual illustrations shows the care given in crafting the story and gameplay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I would say role play specifically instead of gameplay, but because like a mechanical advantage from illustrations. Well, maybe, right? Maybe you could say gameplay and role play as well, because it does have an impact on playing the role, but also on the mechanical side. You can see in the illustration that the monster has perhaps back spikes, so that could give you some ideas for creative attacks. Mm-mm. Because you can also choose the attack based on context, but I highly recommend that you roll instead because it's so very fun to see the results that you obtain. Mm, let's see, let's see. You also have information making camp. When it comes to using a bedroll, you're going to be making that roll when you camp without suffering a bane because you didn't have your sleeping bag with you. You have one of the best non-player characters list in the history of fantasy RPGs. Let me see if I can get it close. All of the information, just like to give you an example, right? Like a small example. It's a generic list of sorts. If you need an enemy or an ally, you go to this list and it's all there for you. You even have a table to create non-player characters, determining their attitude, their motivation, profession, etc. Perfect for solo and cooperative play as well, because this game can be played as a co-op or solo experience. Apart from running it with a game master, You could run it without a game master as a co-op or solo experience. You have good information on how to create adventures, even a quest generator. Maybe the quest happens at the first light of dawn. You receive a letter concerning Davanor, the secretive elven hunter who seeks revenge for the ring that was stolen by the wind tamer. You see? And you come up with those quest ideas. And what about the journey? The journey could be hard and miserable. It could happen in a soggy bog. And there is a hidden village amidst dark, gnarled trees. The place is called Oakenhand. What about the adventure site? Maybe it is hidden and hard to find. There is a blockage of rubble, in fact, with many bandits roaming the area, and a ravenous giant spider as well. Maybe it has been eating the bandits. And there's also a cave in. Now the players could choose to explore either the place covered with the blockage of rubble or the cave in, right? And the player characters must defeat Princess Nadilara, a terrible wraith, or maybe Frost, an undead mallard knight. At the end, you have like a brief information on campaigns. It's decent enough. And this is just this thin book, the one that comes in the box set. Let's take a look at some other goodies. I'm going to put this here. The Dragonbane dice. They come in the box set, but you can also purchase them separately, and they are so cool. They are so cool. Uh, uh, let me show. Fuck. Let me see if I can. I was going to show. How do you show dice? How do you show dice without them? They are green, completely. They look like made out of jello. Like they are lemon jello like dice. They look like candy. Um, it's a bright emerald color. And like I said, these things, they are dangerous. You almost want to like, oh. So definitely worth getting. And the D20 has the mark of the demon so that you don't forget it if you roll a 20. Very cool. Yes, Josh. They're so cool. So cool. You see it like demonic horns. Demonic horns. And look, my finger with the light, it becomes a little green because the light shines through the die. And in the case of a one, you have a dragon because one is good. Rolling one in this game is good. Best result. Let's see here. What other goodies can I find? You have these stand-ins. If you like to use miniatures, although I prefer to play without miniatures when it comes to Dragonbane. There are other games that I like playing with miniatures, but when it comes to Dragonbane, the box set has these like the harpy and a dragon. Um, you have player characters as well. Like for example, let me pull out one of the. This is the blacksmith. The blacksmith. Let me grab it with this hand. Okay, blacksmith. So, and you use this plastic, like stands, plastic bases, so that the miniatures can stand up. Again, the Dragonbane devs really have love for their game, and it shows precisely. Like I said, I talked to Thomas, to the president, to the CEO of Free League, the top cheese, the big cheese. Really cool guy. Sadly, a bit, and I criticize this of him that sometimes he's a bit of a pushover when it comes to the woke. Like designed Mutant Year Zero, and he had the YouTube. This is for informational purposes only. This is for entertainment. It has the slave archetype, and then the woke stars. How dare you include slaves in a savage world with villains and evil? Slaves in a setting of evil? No, no. And Thomas, oh no, no, yes, no. You know what? I'm going to change slave to what was it? Grunt to grunt. I'm telling you, next time. How dare you include ghosts in a haunted house? Don't you see that ghosts are offended? Don't you see? The box set also comes with this nice catalog, by the way. I'm showing you many like Free League publishing products. Grunt, exactly. Grunt, exactly. So anti-thematic. It's a post-apocalyptic world with who knows how many deranged villains, and you're not going to have slavery, please. Of course, you're going to have that. Of course. Of course you're going to have it, you fucking nutcases, you fucking wokesters, you nutcases. Please seek out professional help and grow up a little. Man up or woman up a little, you. You have the different categories that I mentioned. Improvised weapons for the forest, or the inn. Are you fighting in an inn? You have improvised weapons for inn fights, the typical tavern or inn brawl. Well, this is a chandelier. You can swing from a chandelier and attack, giving you an advantage. Or maybe a boiling cauldron. You want to drop a boiling cauldron? You know, the soup of the day, the soup de jour. Throw the soup of the day on your enemies. You can do that. And you also have the adventure cards. Adventure cards. Adventure cards. If you are not certain which adventure to run from the included campaign in the box set, just shuffle the deck, and whoa, the Ritter Mound. Let's shuffle it again. Oh, the Troll's Spire. This is also great for rumors. If the players like are interacting with player characters, you can draw one of these cards randomly. When the moon is full, you can see a tower glittering like a silver spire in the western parts of the valley, said the mysterious old man, right? Roger, anyone can find something to be offended by. It takes effort to just live and let live. Exactly. But it's, like I said, it's about control. It's about forcing others to do your will, your bidding. Under the pretext of being the victim, you can force others to do things. The character sheet, the box set comes with pre-generated characters, all ready to play. You could play as Makander of Half Bay. Makander of Half Bay. You could play as, let me see. You also have blank sheets, by the way. Yes, it's about defining the language used. Yeah. Well, when it comes to the Wokesters or virtue signaling, well, yeah, because I also thought that also the could be applied to good explanations of roleplay and rules. Um, let's see. You also have this quick start sheet. It tells you. It's going to be a bit hard to get it into focus. Well, this sheet over here that you cannot really like clearly see, it has all of the information to get started with Dragonbane. Like decide who will be the game master, let each player create a character or pick one from the pre-generated characters, etc. So it's like it's great for people that are just getting into tabletop RPGs. You could play as Baston Bloodjaw, the Wolfkin Hunter. No, fighter. The Wolfkin Fighter. And so on and so forth. You had so many cool characters. You can get started right away without generating your character. Ah, something fell. No, it's one of those little like the packets so that the sheets, the paper doesn't get moisture. You know, this the salt, the silica salt. That's the name. You have this if you yeah, like using miniatures. You have this for like wilderness encounters. Wilderness encounters and I actually like the tone of the grass because sometimes the grass looks a bit too cartoony, but this grass looks a bit like dark fantasy, grittier. And you have like your dungeon tiles, dungeon tiles section for the dungeons, the castles. A really cool generic map if you like using miniatures, but it is often the case that the battles start to happen outside of the mat. That's why I prefer to play this one without miniatures. Suddenly you had your miniature here, and the battle proceeds, and you're playing all over here. So you need to draw your own grid, right? Uh, let's see, let's see. The Dragonbane Adventures book. This right here. This is a complete campaign. The Secret of the Dragon Emperor. One of the best campaigns in fantasy, I would say, ever. It is so fun. I'm going to be avoiding spoilers. In fact, it is my hope that eventually I will get to play this game, and maybe one of you watching will join that campaign. But every single fucking location is so amazing. There is not a single location in this campaign that is boring. Every single adventure in the secret of the Dragon Emperor campaign is chef's kiss. Mwah! My only criticism, you have an abundance of girl boss type of characters. Almost all of the characters in charge are masculine women or monsters. And you would think in societies as brutal as the Orc society, even though the Dragonbane orcs are considerably more amicable, you would think that those with the greater constitution will be the ones in charge. So there are some things that make no sense. Let's see, Roger speaks. That unalived skeleton wizard reminds me of the animated Hobbit movie from the 70s. I was trying to think, and was there an animated skeleton wizard in the Hobbit cartoon? I know which one from Rankin and Bass, right? I remember the name more or less, but well, the style, right? The style, because no, I don't think they added like an undead wizard, but the style is very similar. Mm-mm-mm. Another thing that I recommend of the campaign, and they actually give you this recommendation. There are some good tips and advice. The art style, yes, There are some good recommendations and tips on how to run the campaign, and one of them being only hand out two or three adventures as rumors, as information when they interact with the player character with the non-player characters. Only hand out two or three of the adventures because The adventures are great, but you need to learn beforehand. They are not written to be played on the go, on like improvising things. You can improvise, of course, but if you want to run them taking advantage of all of the juicy details here, you need to read the adventures beforehand so that you're not like, okay, yeah, yeah, the night sky stretches out and disappear upwards. Um, as the corridor gives way to a large, like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Learn the adventure, and then the information is so easily communicated. You may end up even describing things without reading the flavor text. That's another negative thing about this one. Instead of describing the non-player characters and situations, they start like to say things. Let me find the an example. There's an example here. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this. The temple, no, the mill. At the edge of the village is a small windmill whose sails rotate slowly in the wind. Fair enough. The mill is connected to a log house where piglets, chickens, and carefree toddlers run around in the fenced yard. Pretty decent. An almost irresistible scent of freshly baked bread surrounds the idyllic place. It's good as a general description, but it doesn't give you like um, too many details or of where the entrance more or less is. And idyllic, those adjectives can be quite subjective. So if you say something like, you see a cheerful man, right? A cheerful man. I think it's much better, richer, to say, you see a man smiling with broken teeth. Now you have like, wow, why did he end up with broken teeth? And why is he so happy despite his broken teeth, right? Or you see a man smiling from ear to ear as he performs a little dance. Wow, why is that man dancing? Is he like an artist? Or is he just like improvising? He has never taken training to dance and he's just very happy about something. So those descriptive details are better than you see a happy man, right? You see a sad woman. Give like those little details, brief but little details. Pepper your descriptions with those little details. The box set also comes with this couple of things. Mm, I can almost envision those scene descriptions. Yes, Roger. That is the magic of roleplay. It comes with this huge map. Let me see if I can get it into focus. Huge. It is so huge. This is the Misty Vale. This is the entire area for where the campaign happens. Even if you finish the Secret of the Dragon Emperor, there are so many unexplored places here. So you can easily, I would say that you can run 2 or 3 campaigns using this map without it feeling exhausted. And it creates a sense of familiarity. Roger and Josh, one of these days we should definitely play Dragonbane. We should play the Dragonbane campaign along with 3 other people. It would be amazing. But just planning ahead, right? Because that's what it always happens with tabletop RPGs. You want to run all of the tabletop RPGs, but you you need to consider time, the schedule, resource. That's the beauty of role playing. Exactly, exactly, Josh. And that's a nice map because like I tell my friends, I always tell my friends, I want to like freeze time. I want time freeze to play like so many tabletop RPGs. Now, like I said, all of that comes in the box set. I forgot this one. And you also have the Alone in Deep Fall Bridge. Your solo player character. These are Rules for solo play, they are a bit of a mixed bag. First, the negatives. No roleplay explanation concerning solo roleplay. The typical ask questions. There are so many games to try and play. That is like very exciting, right? How many games, how many tabletop RPGs can you play before the expiring? That's why I'm always enthusiastic about playing tabletop RPGs because you don't want to end up like a sad, pathetic old man that constantly attack others when it comes to role play, and they have played like 1 month of role playing games in their entire lives with terrible role play. You don't and die a miserable death. You don't want to be that old man stereotype. You want to actually do it. Role play. Like I said, this one is a mixed bag. The solo roleplay explanations are terrible. Ask questions, ask questions. Nothing about describing your actions. For those of you that haven't seen it, please watch my solo actual play of Dragonbane. It is ongoing. That teaches you everything you need to know on how to actually roleplay Dragonbane, describing your actions. You will probably you have seen those that have seen my actual play. You have seen those moments when I get so absorbed. There are so many moments, but I remember when I encountered that cavern with a machine composed of tubes and cylinders, and I was shocked. I was completely paralyzed. I would be up for trying Dragonbane at some point. Excellent. When I encountered that much, I was like, how am I even going to navigate this? But because I envisioned that cylinder, I thought I'm going to shoot an arrow against the cylinder. Made my roll, slowed the processes of the movement of the machine a little bit, and I managed to be successful in my acrobatics roll, if I remember correctly, to move through it. So these solo rules, when it comes to solo roleplay, terrible. The guided adventure, rather the guided campaign, because it comes with a complete solo campaign. That's a plus. But the negative is that the places are not described. It is read as if you are remembering the words of a guide type of non-player character. So instead of saying, look, the stone maw, it reads, this great earthen visage is twisted and warped by time and the chisels of cultists, evoking a fanged monstrosity whose gaping maw presents your entry point. I see blood dripping from those wicked fangs, but I cannot say if this vision is real or prophetic. You don't need to have a seer guiding you through things. Before you stands a great earthen structure, twisted and warped, evoking a fanged monstrosity, which forms the entrance. There is blood dripping from the upper parts of the cavern entrance. If the solo campaign had those descriptions, it would be so magical. But now you have this guide that is talking to you. Apart from that, you have so many useful oracles and tables. A fortune chart to generate yes or no. Like I said, like I always say in solo role playing games, don't ask, is there something inside of the chest? No. I look inside the chest. If it is open, right? If not, I attempt to open the chest. You make your roll. Maybe you can open it. Maybe you do not open it. I look inside the chest to see if there is a weapon. You make your roll. You obtain the result of extreme yes. Not only is it a weapon, it's a magical weapon. You obtain the result of no, no weapon. And you could be thinking, well, if there is no weapon, then what is inside? What is inside the chest? No problem. You have a table to generate treasure. You see, handle it however you like. The tools are here, but don't ask questions. Keep that magic going, that role play. Who are you talking to? You're not talking to anybody. You're role playing. You're playing a role and you're playing a game. So you have an inspiration table to determine action, attribute, and thing. Maybe you encounter a non-player character and you start talking to a non-player character like you see an orc crossing the bridge 10 meters from you. As Garner, I get 3 meters closer to the bridge and speaking in a loud voice. Well met, orc friend. Can you tell me if you have seen a great beast, half wolf, half eagle, moving through these parts? And now you make your roll for inspiration to see what the orc answers. And you obtain the result of destroy dangerous refuge. The orc answers, we must destroy that dangerous beast. It damaged my refuge. See, you get inspiration from those, and it's so great. You can determine the attacks that the enemies do, but always give priority to context. It's much quicker, much smoother in solo RPGs when you take a look at the situation and you think, oh, the enemy is definitely going to swing his mace against my head. The enemy is definitely going to try to cut my feet because I am standing on the upper ground. I am standing on top of the boulder and the enemy is below. He's going to swing his sword at my feet, trying to cut my feet, my knees, attacking my knees, perhaps. But if not, if it is not clear, you can determine the attack randomly with this table. You have the exploration tables to generate details, the areas, forgotten libraries, confounding mazes. You can generate the creatures or inhabitants, giant spiders, skeletons. You have subtables to generate bloody trails, luminescent spores, arcane symbols, ominous war drums, traps, treasures. It's all here. So a bit of a mixed bag. Really good collection of solo tables, but bad explanations when it comes to solo roleplay. I also highly recommend. By the way, well, this is like a minor thing, but it could be useful for someone. I always play my RPGs using like this type of to keep the character sheet, and even as a game master to hold my different sheets, various sheets together. Very useful to have your clipboard. This is the name in English, right? The clipboard, I think. Mm, the game master screen. What a beautiful screen! Exactly what the opposite of the Dark Souls screen looks good, but you had that giant table that you're never going to use when the character dies. Well, you use it, but rarely, right? Like once every 4 encounters, maybe, if they're actually role playing carefully, or once every adventure. Perhaps none. Perhaps the players are very wise and intelligent when role playing their characters and they don't die in the adventure. Then you don't need that table, but the Dragonbane Game Master screen. How beautiful, look. Like the wings of a dragon, like the wings of a dragon. Top-notch quality, sturdy. And all of the information, every single one of these charts, every single one of these charts, amazing, useful, beautiful, beautiful screen, outside and inside, back cover, front, exactly amazing, amazing overall. And you have a table to generate typical non-player characters. You have an entire bestiary in one panel. The monsters are not going to be like the full stated monsters, but in an emergency, when the player characters go off the beaten path, when they fight an unexpected beast, you have a non-player character, a bandit, a cultist, an adventurer. You have these stats to use them as they are, or to improvise, just use the stats and modify some of the values, the combat values. You are set. Curiously enough, it is placed in the same area where the Dark Souls table was, you see. Instead of including that table that you are not going to use perhaps in an entire session, they should have added a table useful like this. Like I said, in the case of Dark Souls RPG, they should have added a table with the cost to use position to activate your various powers, abilities, and whatnot. Here you also have tables for actions, the measure time, the demon roll or critical misses, the fear table, consequences for leaving the adventure site in Dragonbane. If you are constantly leaving the adventure site, like, oh, let's just take care of this encounter. If we get hurt, we'll go to town and that's it. Nothing is going to happen now. But here, maybe there could be reinforcements the next time you are there because you abandoned the place. Maybe someone else arrives at the site and they take all of the treasure because you were not fast enough. Very true. Nothing worse than lackluster screens. Like, you had one job, make it useful. How difficult is it? And this is to the credit of another publisher. A lot of you are familiar with Artal Sorian. Artal Sorian from Cyberpunk, from Mechaton Zeta, from The Witcher tabletop RPG. Cody Pondsmith. Cody Pondsmith. Great guy. I once entered one of the products in Retro RPG and I mentioned, hey, this Game Master screen is super expensive. This is not even a physical screen and it's a digital screen and it is super expensive and you're selling it like this. Game Master screens are so easy to make and you're selling it so expensive and it uh, it kind of looks useful, but I made like an argument, right? And then came a wokester with their typical flag, a certain flag that the wokesters love to use. How dare you? If you don't like it, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Criticize. Can't you see he's black? Can't you see? Cody Pondsmith lowers the price of the screen. I tell Cody, that was a super classy move because I wasn't the only one complaining about the price. You lower the price, you listen to your customers. And Cody, yes, I realized that what you were saying was actually correct. Don't you just love it when virtue signalers defend those that do not need defending? Fuck. Now, another beautiful book to get, the Bestiary. Dragonbane Bestiary. I really like the tone, like the dark fantasy. It's like very 80s, right? The Dragonbane Bestiary is a must have. Not only do you have amazing illustrations for each monster, unlike the again, right? Poor Dark Souls tabletop RPG, but the tome of strange creatures or whatever. Not all of the entries have illustrations, and not even the core book. But here, every single creature in the beast theory has its own beautiful, amazing, incredible art. The bestiary alone looks like a collector's dream. Exactly, Roger. Exactly. Each one of these monsters with lore, with adventure seeds, with tips on how to use the monster for a random encounter. Each monster with different attacks to choose or randomly generate. I'm going to produce a tier on how beautiful this mystery is. Dark Souls already has artwork, and they couldn't be bothered to just reuse it for the RPG books. Mm, it could be a case. Do you see this RPG over here? That one is the Is tabletop RPG. Nihon Falcon, because it's based on a video game. If you don't know, if people don't know, is based on a video game. It's a video game franchise. Is has a lot of artwork, beautiful, incredible, exquisite artwork. This book has a lot of original yet a bit lackluster art. Some of it is good. I think it is unfairly criticized in some cases, but a lot of the art pieces are not the best. I've only seen one official art piece in this book. A lot of AI art as well, artificial intelligence generated art. So a lot of people were asking, "Hey, what the fuck? Is has official artwork? Why didn't you use official artwork for the Is game, for the Is book?" It turns out that Nihon Falcon was not very confident in the success of this tabletop RPG. So they did not give them permission to use any of the assets. So I wonder, in the case of the Dark Souls RPG, if they were also limited in that regard. But considering how lazy they are, who knows, right? Considering the laziness displayed in not polishing the rules properly, in not, at least in the first edition, that could be the laziness exhibited in copy pasting everything and not verifying the lore, not checking the difficulty ratings. They are super lazy. The three individuals mentioned, Alan Barr, and what was the other name of the other guy? Matt something. Well, take a look at my. Those of you that haven't seen it, search Dark Souls, the role-playing game, in my library of videos, and you will find it. And I mentioned the names of those guys. Instead of producing writing, making good writing, and editing, it could be a case of laziness. We can never discard that. The beast theory also comes with playable kin, additional species to play, to use as player characters. You can create an orc character, an ogre character, a goblin character, a hobgoblin character, one of the frog people, the Karkion, which are probably my favorite. The Karkion are pretty much bat people, humanoid bats. The Dark Souls RPG devs probably didn't even ask the license holders for permission to use game stats and accessories. It's possible. If they had communication with someone with the staff, like anyone that has played Dark Souls, they would have never made that error of the difficulty ratings. Josh speaks. So a standard Dragonbane character has one attack action, or it has to be saved for defense. Is that how it works? You have to decide if you want to dodge or parry. You can't unless you have a heroic ability. For example, in the case of solo play, you have the heroic ability Army of One. When fighting alone, draw two initiative cards and keep both. You have two turns each round. So you could use one of your abilities to attack, in that case, and another one to block or to parry or dodge. So sometimes you need to sacrifice your action. This is in the case where you think that, for example, one of the characters is too wounded. Better save your action to either parry or dodge, right? Maybe one hit you're dead. Save your action so that you get to parry or dodge the attack and wait for your companions to come to the rescue. Maybe once they come get the enemy off of you, now you get to attack again. So it's quite strategic in that regard. But there is a chance, of course, if you parry. Let me take a look at the where's the oh, here it is. Combat. Mm-mm. Parry, parry, parry. That makes encounters very dangerous, especially if you get outnumbered. Uh-huh. Exactly. Uh, Parrying. What happens when you roll a dragon? Like it should be though. Uh-huh. What happens when you roll a dragon when parrying? A one. If you roll a dragon when parrying, you immediately perform a counter attack on your opponent. So you could also consider that. Maybe you think it is worth it to bet it all on a counter attack. But that's why you travel in numbers, right? There is safety in numbers. You have several adventurers to cover each other's back. So if you end up too wounded, better focus on parrying and dodging until you heal or you get to a safer distance or a safer position. Those tactical considerations are needed. Let me continue with the species that you can play as. Like I said, the Karkion, they're like bad people, good guys. Not this one, because this is like a demonic bat monster. The Karkion, I don't like the illustration too much, to be perfectly frank. This looks like a flying cat bat. So I think the face was a miss. You can't win them all, right? You can also play as the cat people, as the lizard people, and as the satyrs. So those are my thoughts on Dragonbane. One of the best fantasy role-playing games in existence. You have to purchase it. I would recommend as a physical book because the physical products are exquisite, beautiful. Chef's kiss all over. Mwah, 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 chef's kiss. You can also get it as a PDF, but definitely get it. Do not miss out on it. If you like dark fantasy, perhaps with a bit of humor, mirth and mayhem, because you have, after all, humanoid dogs. That's always a bit funny. Definitely get Dragonbane. They have released a new campaign. I haven't taken a look at it. I don't know if it is good. I hope it is not, free from woke contamination. Like I said, the Secrets of the Dragonbane campaign is really good, except for the girl boss stereotype that is used throughout the adventure. Not as much, but it is there. But apart from that, the adventure sites, each single adventure, it comes with like 10 adventures. So fun and magical. So my highest recommendation, definitely get the Dragonbane tabletop RPG and get the Game Master screen, the dice, the box set, the bestiary, all of it. But that would be it. That is from the products they have released so far. That would be the complete system. The bestiary, either the core box or the core rulebook, the Game Master screen if you want because it is beautiful, and all the dice if you want because it's typical polyhedral dice. They just look really nice. You can use your old polyhedral dice, no problem. So thanks once again to everyone for watching this live stream. Thank you, Josh and Roger and Radrat and Pete. Thanks to everyone. These live streams are very fun, but I usually don't always have the time to do them. But when I have the time to do like a live stream, When I talk about tabletop RPGs, I will do it. So thank you all. This is going to be the last live stream for the day. Have a great rest of your evening, day, wherever you are. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thank you, Rat Rat. Take a look at the information, the description, the pin, comment. Definitely consider joining as a member or using the super thanks button. And remember, in tabletop RPGs, you are not having a conversation about your characters. You are experiencing the game world as your characters. Once again, thank you all. Have a great night as well. See you later, all of you. See you later.